The Brother AJ Audio Interface Journey Quest for Perfect Sound Recordings by A.L. Jones, Sr. In the beginning, before computers became fast enough to process audio wave files, before hard drives were large enough to store complex audio wave files, MIDI recording was king. You did not record audio, but ones and zeros, aka data. What key was pressed, for how long, any modulation, aftertouch, or pitch data was captured via MIDI, not audio sound. On playback, computer regurgitated data, allowing MIDI devices to playback data as audio. MIDI files took up very little storage space, allowing it to be the mode of choice. Before computers arrived, what did a typical recording setup look like? Well, microphones and speakers were placed strategically in the studio, instruments were set up and properly tuned, multi-track tape decks were loaded with reel-to-reel tape, record button was pressed, and musicians began to play, allowing live audio to be captured. Playback allowed what was captured in the room to be heard as audio. By having multi-track recording, you could control each sound source for optimum recording. AJ Early recording setup. I started with a Yamaha 4-track cassette recorder. Then I upgraded to a Yamaha 8-track cassette recorder. Roland invented an 8-track digital recorder, meaning there was no tape, you recorded directly to hard drive. I purchased 2 of those to sync together, allowing me to have 16 tracks of digital recording. The record button was pressed, and musicians began to play, allowing live audio to be captured. Playback allowed what was captured to be heard as audio. By having multi-track recording, you could control each sound source for optimum recording. AJ recording process, 4-track recording. That is the Yamaha MT4X. Track 1 was vocals, track 2 piano, organ, synth sounds and strings, track 3 was bass, track 4 was drums. This was the best way for me to capture my audio sound, allowing for limited mixing control. I knew my vocals, bass, and drums needed to stand out, hence they were on solo tracks. However, I had no control of the rest of the music, so I had to pay strict attention to how I mixed these sounds because once recorded, I could never go back and change them. AJ recording process, 8-track recording. This was the Yamaha MT8X unit. Track 1 was lead vocals, track 2 was lead vocals, track 3 was vocal ad-libs, track 4 was background vocals, track 5 was piano, organ, and synth sounds, track 6 was strings, track 7 was bass, track 8 was drums. I allowed for better isolation and control of all sounds. This led to a fuller and richer mixes. This level of control allowed for much clearer detail, as I could separate things for clarity. And I replicated it the same way when I got the Roland digital unit, so there was no difference in recording technique, just the manner in which the audio was saved. AJ Early recording setup, 16-track recording. Fostex developed a 16-track digital recorder. It was a game changer. Track 1, lead vocals 1. Track 2, lead vocals 2. Track 3, lead vocals 3. Track 4, lead vocals 4. Track 5, vocal ad-libs 1. Track 6, vocal ad-libs 2. Track 7, background vocals. Track 8, background vocals 2. Track 9, synth lead 1. Track 10, synth lead 2. Track 11, organs. Track 12, pianos. Track 13, strings 1. Track 14, strings 2. Track 15, bass. Track 16, drums. And then I purchased a Tascam 32D, giving me 32 track digital recording, and I was in seventh heaven. This, instead of using hard drive, would record to an SD card. Audio interface beginnings. These were still standalone units that worked the way multi-track recorders did. I still did not have a way to record audio files into my computer. This was where my AJ audio interface journey truly begins. From 2012 to 2023, I have purchased 5 different audio interfaces. Each served a particular need at the time, and that's how they arrived in my studio. An audio interface will turn live audio sound into WAV files, which can be recorded and manipulated inside of your computer's digital audio workstation, aka your DAW. Sidebar note: how did I arrive at this place? Well, my music creating son gently dragged me out of my 80s, 90s MIDI workflow into the Y2Ks working with audio WAV files like his new age generation does. It all came to fruition when I released my very first solo CD project, introducing the Brother AJ7 in 2020. It was created in MIDI, then recorded through my PreSonus Audio Box 1818 VSL audio interface into WAV files into my DAW, where it was mixed and delivered to my distributor for the world to consume it via digital platforms. Number 1 was my Alesis IO2 Express in 2012. This unit had 2 channels of audio recording, XLR and quarter-inch connections, gain controls, mic line switch, headphone monitor mix, main output control, 2-channel output, USB connections, MIDI in and out connections. It was a cryptic 2-channel audio recording. It was simple, easy to use, but was severely limited with only 2 channels. I recorded simple vocals and a few stereo drum tracks. Number 2, PreSonus Audio Box 1818 VSL in 2017. This unit had 8 channels of audio recording, XLR and quarter-inch connections, gain controls, 8 mic with 2 of those being line switches, headphone monitor mix, main output control, 8-channel outputs, left-right stereo outputs, USB connection, MIDI in and out connections. With 8 tracks of audio recording at once, this was the holy grail for me. I could immediately create songs in MIDI, then once completed, I would record 8 tracks of music audio WAV files into my DAW. Then I would turn around and add multiple audio vocal tracks afterward to truly expand my sound palette. This unit landed in my control room where I processed the bulk of my recording and mixing, and it never ever left because it worked perfectly. Number 3, Arturio MiniFuse 2 2021. This unit, like the Alesis IO2, had 2 channels of audio recording, XLR and quarter-inch connections, gain controls, mic line switch, headphone monitor mix, main output control, 2-channel output, USB connection, MIDI in and out connections. With crystal clear 2-channel audio recording, simple and easy to use, it was far superior to my Alesis IO2 Express unit. Although still limited with only 2 channels, I would use this unit to record my band, which consisted of 3 main singers, 2 background singers, guitar, keyboards, bass, and drums into a stereo mix to capture our live sound. It was small but powerful unit that ultimately sounded great. Number 4 was the Tascam US 16x8 in 2022. This unit featured 8 channels of audio recording, XLR quarter-inch connections, gain controls, 8 mic, 8 line switches, headphone monitor mix, main output control, 16 channel outputs, left-right stereo outputs, USB connections, MIDI in and out connections. With 8 tracks of audio recording, I thought it would be similar to my PreSonus Audio 1818 VSL, so I put it in my control room for my live band recordings. It never worked properly. It struggled to record on all 8 channels at once. It seemed like the first 4 channels would record, or I did stereo recording, not allowing access to all it was designed to. I was disappointed after the success of my PreSonus Audio Box 1818 VSL interface, so I kind of stuck it up on the shelf and kept using my Arturia Mini Fuse 2, which was already doing a great job of stereo recordings. Number 5 is the PreSonus Studio 1824C in 2023. This unit had 8 channels of audio recording, XLR and quarter-inch connections, gain controls, 8 mic, 2 line switches, 2 headphone monitor mixes, main output control, 8 channel outputs, left-right stereo output, USB connection, and MIDI in-out connections. With 8 tracks of audio recording, I was back in business in my live room the way I thought I should have been from the start with my Tascam US 16x8. I could now take all 8 of my drum microphones to record 8 tracks of live drums simultaneously into my DAW. If I'm recording the band, I simply use 4 tracks of drums, 1 track for the vocals, 1 track for keys, and 1 track for bass. The vocals are strictly scratch vocals that we can multi-overdub after the songs are completed. We can even add guitar, effects, etc., taking us back to the old school way records were made back in the day. And of all the units I have purchased, this is the one. I flat out love it. So, the Brother AJ Audio Interface CD projects. In 2020, I dropped my first album, and that album was introducing the Brother AJ 7. In 2021, I dropped my second album, and that album was called Never in My Life. In 2022, I dropped my third album. That project was called Let It Flow. And last year, I dropped my fourth solo CD project. That project was entitled INS12L Me, and all of those album projects were created using all of these audio interfaces depending on where I was and what I was doing. So now in conclusion, now that I have arrived here, there is no going back to one way of creating. I have the ability to work across multiple mediums, from MIDI to audio wave files. The PreSonus Audio Box 1818 VSL audio interface is here to stay in my control room, where I do the bulk of my studio work to record, mix, master, and deliver my music out into the universe. The PreSonus Studio 1824C audio interface unit resides in my live room, giving me the ability to capture live band recordings with the same precision, separation, and detail I desire to allow the mixes I create the ability to be dynamic and well laid out sonically. Many folks are disciples of the Focusrite series as they delivered an incredible product. I am fully in the PreSonus camp, as not only do they deliver amazingly affordable audio interface units, but it was built to work with their Studio One DAW. I am a Cakewalk DAW user, but all audio interfaces work across all DAWs regardless of the manufacturer, so don't be afraid to grab one. Hopefully, the journey I've taken can help you make great choices in your setup, saving you time, money, and frustration as you work it out. Thank you. It's the Brother AJ here. I hope this helps you in what you're trying to do in your studio. Bye-bye.